Welcome back, everybody. Bacon and Egg Show, episode 83, July 28th, 2022. I don't know why I keep thinking it's like August already. I guess it essentially is. And the fact that it's been a blast furnace outside for the last 2 months or
Yeah,
something makes it feel later in the year. But besides all that, Jay, what is going on?
man, have not a lot. I've had a pretty good Austin day here today. Stopped by Sandy's earlier for lunch. Had a little time at a Deep Eddy Pool, a place that I've spent a lot of time at, and it was good to get back there. And nice and refreshing. Took Finley down there and got some ice cool water, all to bring down the core temperature a little bit
Oh,
to
yeah.
combat the 8,000 days of 100-degree weather we've already had this summer. So doing good, man. And it's pool party day on campus.
Yeah, let's
You
get right
know,
into it.
let's get
Right
let's
into it.
dive into that, man.
There's a there's gonna be some large humans cannonballing into that pool over on campus this weekend because, man, Coach Flood, Sark. I mean, what
Coach
else can we
Arch.
say? Yeah, Arch Manning, the Manning family. What
Yeah.
else can we say at this point about obviously the recruiting? As we mentioned, you get Arch. There's this big upswing, and you get Jonte Cook, and you get this. Obviously, there's going to be a bunch of skill players that want to follow the Pied Piper Arch Manning to campus. I mean, you'd figure there'd be some offensive linemen involved here, especially with how well they recruited offensive line with his previous class. But man, some of these pulls that they're getting in this recruiting class right now, and especially the most recent one with Peyton Kirkland, like, what do you say about that? I mean, this is you see the numbers, the height and weight on them, and then you see a photo of them, and it's like that is a massive dude.
Yeah, there's a reason. There's a reason Sarkeesian's using the hashtag big humans. And it's just Texas. It appears that Texas, this is the new Texas now. We're not seeing the 270-pound guards being recruited anymore. We're not seeing, these are guys that are at what they're going to play at, and they're going to get stronger and get better. But these are already big guys. They're not going to have to get on campus to put on weight. The Peyton Kirkland commitment was one that was sort of out of left field, where you look at
So
his,
fascinating.
he had a top five, Florida, Miami, Michigan State, Oklahoma.
Georgia, I think,
There
was
was
in
some
that.
Georgia, there was some Alabama interest in there at one point. And there were some teasers leading up to that where, like even he was tweeting out, why would I go to Texas? Things like that. And then the closer that it got, the crystal ball predictions kept coming out. And he never added Texas to that top five. There was never an actual, like, I'm adding Texas to my short list conversation. And then it's commitment day. You get on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. He's down there with his mom. They're asking him the questions, and you know he just says, "I'm going to Texas." And it was just one of those things where, like you said, fascinating is a good way to put it, because I don't really remember there being this sort of just a shift in the mentality, a shift in the momentum, a shift in what it feels like this program is about, like I've felt in the last, not just, couple of months, but since Steve Sarkisian has been recruiting football players onto this campus, there has been a shift. And now we're actually seeing a seismic shift, no pun intended, in the way that the players are being brought, like the way that this team is being assembled, man. And Peyton Kirkland, the Arch Manning gimmick, yeah, that is huge. That's to get Arch Manning to, how many offers, any school in the country would have wanted Arch Manning. To land him is obviously the biggest coup of them all. But when you start to see, it's not just a quarterback. When you start to see a guy like Peyton Kirkland, Kerry, that out of nowhere decides, you know what, Texas is a spot for me, that's when you feel like the tides are changing on the 40 acres.
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten so used to this formula of, you know, junior days and camps. Players come to campus they might receive an early offer, they take official visits, they do, there's this pattern in this routine, they narrow it down to their top 17, then they go to their top 5, then, the crystal balls start coming in, you start hearing, there's confidence levels, there's all these things, maybe they take another official visit, like, and then, they have their commitment day, and, you know, things go on from there. Like, we're pretty used to that formula. And this recruitment like broke all of that. It broke all of the rules in that regard. This weekend's the first time he's on campus. Like, this is his first visit. So he committed essentially, sight unseen. Not that, there's going to be an issue there with, he's looking to go to East Lansing. I don't think he's, when they made the top 5, I don't think coming to Austin's going to be like, I don't know. I don't know about the city. Like, I think he'll be fine in that regard. But like, and then not making the top 5, and crystal balls started coming in. You figured there'd be some more whispers about why that would be. I mean, and honestly, kind of the discussion around it was a lot. It seemed like kind of guesswork in a way, or maybe people just didn't want to reveal what they knew, because it was like, I'm pretty confident in this. There's some smoke here. I can't really say much more. It just broke all the rules of like the traditional recruitment. And and I guess this is a larger discussion, but I think it kind of fits into narratives we've talked about before. I mean, how much does the name, image, and likeness stuff already have changed how recruitments go? And, this is just going to be kind of the nature of it in a way. Like, but he did say Arch was a big part of his commitment. Arch was FaceTiming him, and it's like, well, Arch told me to come to Texas. So
yeah, Arch said I need a left tackle. Is that you or what?
yeah,
and he's like, okay, well,
I guess
yeah,
I'm going to go follow Arch. I'm going to go play with Arch.
Right. The Arch Manning FaceTimes once a week, the Steve Sarkisian FaceTimes once a week that apparently happened. Like, they're not letting up. Okay, we didn't make the top 5. All right, we're going to throw in the towel. No, it's not what we're seeing now. Like, these are our guys. These are the type of people that we want. These are the big humans. These are the people that are going to come in here and make a difference immediately when they get on campus. And we're going to do everything that we can. This is the coaching staff speaking. We're going to do everything that we can to get them onto campus. And it's just, it feels different. And we always go back to this, how Sark was always viewed as the elite recruiter, right? Like, the recruiting was never going to be an issue. We're seeing, obviously, after a 5-7 season, we're seeing that come to fruition. Like, this is who he is, and this is the coach that you hired,
right,
to bring Texas back to relevance.
Right.
And whether or not he gets it done on Saturdays is, obviously there's still a lot of work to do there, but everything else seems to be falling into place. And this Peyton Kirkland commitment, the Arch Manning, you call it Arch Manning being the Pied Piper, you could call it Steve Sarkisian being,
well, it's a combination of things.
You can chalk it up to some name, image, and likeness stuff, but whatever it is, it's happening. And whatever it took to get Peyton Kirkland on the campus after seemingly falling out of, not falling out of, but not being in the top 5, not being seen as a contender immediately. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you start hearing the whispers. And then a week later, like you said, without even stepping foot on campus, no visits, no nothing, he's committing to the University of Texas. So it's just, again, it's a shift in the way that things are being done. Like you said, just in general in college football and recruiting, but it seems like Texas is no longer being reactionary. This is not a reactive program anymore. This is a proactive program. And that's what it's going to take in these days of college football, of name, image, and likeness, of recruiting being different now than it has ever been. It's what it's going to take to keep up with the Alabamas, with the Georgias, with all the schools in the SEC that Texas will start to play on a regular basis when they move over to that conference. Those schools have been doing this. Now Texas has to go into that conference, and if you're bringing in 280-pound linemen, you're not going to compete in the SEC, period. You weren't competing in the Big 12.
No.
Imagine going to the SEC with guys that are not hashtag big humans. Okay. This is prepping for the SEC, and you've got the right guy on campus to bring them on. Now, you got Arch Manning, you got another, you got not only Peyton Kirkland, but, Connor Stroh, another large human. What was he? 6'6", 6'5", 345. Like,
It's
this is a big dude. This is not project come into the weight room for a year and put some muscle
oh
on.
no, give them a redshirt season and then another developmental season. And by
Right.
the time that, they're a sophomore, redshirt sophomore, junior, that then they'll go into the starting role. Like that's not how this works.
Excuse me. He's 6'6.5". My bad. I shortchanged him there.
See,
345. Like, Peyton Kirkland coming in with his 81-inch wingspan. Like, these are the things that you have to compete in college football at any level, much less in the South, in the SEC. So, like, it just seems like all these things are lining up for Texas to be able to compete. Because if you don't do this, you don't even have a shot. You have no shot going into the
no,
SEC
no.
unless you're taking these steps forward. And it looks like Sarkisian's doing the right thing. We have, Jonte Cook. You mentioned Jonte Cook earlier, who's also on campus today for the pool party. Like, these are the types of players, like the skill position players haven't really seemed to be an issue. Getting the flashy guys here on campus has not been the issue. It's been the meat and potatoes, the guys in the trenches that actually, at any level of football, are the main reason that you can win. And that we're starting to see a combination of the two, and they're not done with this 2023 class yet.
Oh
That's the
no,
thing.
there's a long way to go.
This is far from over. There's 20 commits right now in the 2023 class. There's plenty of room to add some more names, and I'm looking forward to starting to hear those whispers again to see who that next big name will be, whether it's on the offensive side of the ball or, if you're looking at the defensive side of the ball, when you get a guy like Sadir Mitchell, it's just, those are the guys, 6'5", 335. Those are the guys that, Mike, our friend, Longhorn Insider, Dr. Roto contributor, Mike Holland, when he says, can we has pass rush? Sadir Mitchell clogging up the middle there, that's another large human, big human, that it's just, they're big dudes that are coming onto campus, man. And like I said, you're starting to see the tide is shifting to being a competitive program once again.
Well, the last piece of that puzzle is being able to obviously like produce on the field, win games, but also to show development, and show after last season's like historically bad defense, to show that there's some scheme work and that things are on the up there in order to start really swinging for the fences on that side of the ball, recruiting wise. And that's where, we've talked about it, about how like, wins and losses are one thing, but like recruits also want to see, when they watch Texas, they're going to go, okay, I saw what this team looked like in 2021 on the defensive side of the ball. Now I see what they look like in 2022, and I can see the difference in scheme. I can see the types of players that they're looking for, and I can see where I fit in this, even if the results aren't entirely there. And that's where Kwiatkowski's job is cut out for him this season in terms of scheming and getting this defense to look. I mean, it's hard. It'll be hard to look any worse. I don't think it'll be any worse, but like improvement should be the bare minimum on that side of the ball. And that's what I'm interested to see. That's what, as we start getting closer to the season, into the season, a lot of players are going to start wanting to kind of have their spot on a, in a recruiting class. But how many of those guys can Texas start getting into to flip and start putting some results on the field and on tape to start convincing some of the guys that maybe weren't convinced before? And I don't have any specific name or anything here, but like, how many of those kinds of guys can you start to turn their head a little bit as we get further into the season that maybe you've already committed? That's another thing to watch. And if Texas starts putting together a good season, I mean, the sky's the limit with this class. So, but man, let's
Well, and real quick, I just wanted to hit on Malik Muhammad too, as the defensive back. Like basically, if he's not the best defensive back in this class, he's in the top 2 or 3. And it's like
I
you're seeing,
completely forgot to bring that up. That's a huge get.
and yeah, and somebody that has, where he's like, the coaches told him, like, you can come in and you can be the alpha male on this defense. And it's just like, again, they haven't had issues getting highly ranked players on at those more skilled positions,
Right.
but it's almost like this is the next level of recruit. This is the next level. So there's basically at the Future 50 camp, Aiden Williams, who's a Rival's top 250 player, said that Muhammad was the best DB that he went up at the Future 50 camp. And like those are the sort of things when you hear that from not just the people doing the analysis for recruiting, but from the players themselves,
Right.
like that's when
That
you
says a lot.
know
That's
you're
respect.
stepping up the game here. You're stepping up the game in terms of the types of guys that you're getting on campus. Yeah, you can watch tape and you can put a label on a 4-star, 5-star guy, whatever it might be. But the players talk, and when the players say that this guy is the real, he was the best guy I went up against the entire time when I was at this camp. That's when you know you're elevating the type of players that you're getting on the
Right.
campus. And then Malik Muhammad can very possibly be that next alpha male, that next dude. And he's a part of that 2023 class as well. I just wanted to make sure that we hit on that
No, for
because
sure.
that's a big name. That's a big get. And like you said, they're not done yet. They're not, they're
No.
not done with this class. And they're right now basically seem to be ranked number 4 recruiting class right now for the 2023 class. I anticipate Texas to finish in the top 3 before this is all said and done. And
Yeah, I think
and
that's
add,
definitely within reach.
yeah, and add a couple more names where you just look at it and you're like, damn.
Well, and the Kirkland thing was such a surprise too. And that's where you don't even know, some of these services are being just left completely in the dark about what Sark and his team they're doing behind the scenes. And that's what, like, you can go, okay, well,
Great.
who are they looking at? Who's next? But like, we don't even, just let it play out. I think you're right. I think it's going to finish a top 3 class at this rate, unless things on the field just completely
Yeah. And that was
crater.
yeah, and that's a comment that a cousin Andy, who's the reason that I got into going to Texas football games as a 10, 11-year-old. He's the one that started taking me to Texas football games. And his point was like, he thought that they still had to win 9 games this season in order to keep all these guys. I don't know if it's a 9-win season, but I told him, I said, I don't know if it's 9 wins, but they've got to pass the eye test, right? Like we're really big about the eye test on this show. They've got to pass the eye test. I don't think it has to be 9 wins. I think obviously that sure wouldn't hurt.
I think,
but
8 and 4.
I don't know if it has to be. I think that's okay, right. But 8 and 4, even 7 and 5, Kerry.
Same.
Texas
I don't
fans don't
know,
want to hear
man.
that. In my opinion, if you're 7 and 5, you pass the eye test. You just can't quite get over the hump yet, right? But you pass the eye test on some of this stuff. The defense starts to look better. I feel more comfortable with 8 and 4.
When you look at the schedule, it's kind of like finding 5 losses in there. That means that, obviously, okay, Bama, you can go Oklahoma State, whatever, like, but you're throwing 2 more in there that are probably going to be bad losses. That's where, like, if you just chalk those first 3 up, Bama, OU, Oklahoma State, the 3 best opponents on this roster, and you say Texas is going to lose those games, that's 9 and 3. You throw in 1 bad loss in there somewhere. Baylor. I think Baylor would be a bad loss this year. I don't know. We'll see. But like, you get into 8 and 4, but man, when you start getting into the K-States, some of the other, there's a return trip to Kansas this season. Got to go up to Lawrence to revenge that loss. You start getting some of those bad losses on the schedule to get to 7 and 5. And that's where I think the narrative, it doesn't kill it, but it takes a hit.
That's fair.
And I feel like 8-4. Well, I think there's two different things at play here. Honestly, I think there's recruiting momentum. I think you can't go any worse than 8-4. I think that's where it starts to get a little slippery if you get to 7-5. But you can still go 7-5, and like you said, show improvement in that things are on the up football wise, like what's actually being played on the field. Some recruits will be fine with that. I think that 7-5 starts turning into an easy negative recruiting point for opposing coaches, and some players might not, they might buy into that. So that's where, for me, I feel like 8-4 or better. I think Sark won't have any problem keeping this class together and holding everything down, if not make it, and making it better. I just think, man, that 7-5 line for me is where it starts to get a little, it gets a little dicey, I think.
And before we
recruiting
move on,
wise,
yeah, I'm with you. I think before we move on, I think that is the selling point for this 2023 class too, is that, hey, like, be the guys to come on this campus and change the trajectory of this program. Like, and I don't know that 7-5 gets it done. You make some good points. I just think, again, it's an eye test thing for me, but it's definitely the opportunity to come on, and then we're not even talking about the other 5-star guy, Derek Williams, the safety out of Louisiana. Like, there's going to be more hosses that come on, and we're going to see maybe a couple of these guys drop out. It's going to happen. Like,
that's the nature of it.
Keeping all 20 of these commitments all the way up until signing day, it just won't happen. But I feel like that they'll fill some guys in, and it's an eye test thing for me. And if Sark can get it done on Saturdays, that Alabama game in week 2, it looms so large. You just don't get the brakes beaten off of you, man. And they might, it's going to be a 15, 16, 17-point line.
Oh, you think so?
I think that's a 2.5 touchdown line. Probably.
Is there a line out yet? Do we have this?
I don't know.
I'm kind of curious. I don't know.
It's going to be at least 2 touchdowns for me.
I'm fascinated now.
And I don't care what they do, what Texas does in week 1. It's going to be a 2.5 touchdown line, probably, maybe even depending on what Bama does in week 1. It may be bigger, but that looms large. Can you hang in there? Can you stick with them? And I just think that's obviously such an important game, but you're right. 7 might not be enough, but I just think it's, once they get it done, once they get on the field and you start to see that unravel, then I really do think that we're going to get a chance to see this. They're going to score points. Like, this offense is going to score just like they did last season. Like, the offense wasn't the issue, right? So what changes can you make on defense? Can you
historically bad defense?
Yeah. Like, I mean, we were in the stands for that Texas Tech game where they dropped a 70 burger. And we're sitting there thinking, like, that's
but how much? But they still gave up 35
or
something, and like Tech wasn't any good.
Not a good team. So
right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Well, Zoom has got us on an enforced.
Oh man, we've been going that long already about on the old Arch Watch. Huh? All right.
Yeah. Zoom's got the. I guess they changed their plan on this. I thought it was if you had more than 2 PO. That's what it used to be. Whenever we'd have mic.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got a little under a minute here.
Well, let's wrap it up then, man. Yeah, let's just it's gonna be a good one. Let's watch it. Let's see if anything comes from this pool party this weekend, man.
Yeah, this is a big recruiting weekend, so I'm thinking something should drop. But
Arch Watch continues. The Pied Piper. Let's do it.
The King. Well, yeah, man. Let's get back together next week. We'll follow up on this recruiting weekend and hit some Austin FC.
Sounds good, man. We'll do it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all. See ya.